Alright, so today we are going to be installing a Mint desktop into our virtual environment here as a virtual machine. So the first step that we need to take is go ahead and select a new machine. And we're going to name this Mint Desktop. And it is Linux type and 32-bit version is correct for me, so I'll select Next. And I will leave the recommended RAM size as it is and continue. And we can go ahead and create the virtual hard disk now at 8 gigabytes. And we will leave it as the default VirtualBox disk image and select Next. And we will leave this also to be dynamically allocated. And we'll go ahead and create the machine. Now the first thing that we need to do is go into the settings of our new machine. And under storage, we need to attach the ISO image that we're going to be installing from. And in this case, it's going to be Linux Mint right here, the ISO image. And the other thing that we need to do while we're here is go into the network. And the network adapter needs to be changed to internal network so that it can communicate with the rest of our devices here in our virtual environment. And also, for this particular machine, I need to go into the advanced settings and change the adapter type here to PCNet Fast3. This is the way it's going to work for me. It might work differently on other systems. So I'll go ahead and select OK. And now that we've done that, we can go ahead and start up the Mint desktop. So now we're at the screen where we need to go ahead and choose the installation of Linux Mint. So we will click on that to start that process. Alright, so the first thing that we are prompted to do is select the installation language, which we will leave as English and continue. Okay, and here we're given basically a few things that will ensure the best results. We don't have to worry about this right now. We can just go ahead and continue with the installation. Everything's good there. Alright, so the next decision that we need to make is to go ahead and install which type of installation that we're going to do. And we will just keep this at the default, which is erase disk and install Linux Mint, since there's not anything else here in this space that we've allocated. So that's fine. We'll go ahead and install now. And here we are given some information about partitions and how our disk is going to be set up. Everything is fine, so we can continue. And now we're being prompted to select our location. And since I'm in North Carolina, that's what I'm going to choose. I'm going to type in North Carolina. And so now we have our location. We can go ahead and continue. Okay, the next thing we need to look at here is the keyboard layout. We don't need to detect it because we can just choose the options here that are pre-selected for us. English US, so we can just continue. Alright, and at this point we need to enter in some information. So I will go ahead and type in my name as prompted, which will also name the computer. And that will be my username as well. And now I can create a password, so I can type that in here, and then I will need to confirm that password as well. And now we can continue. Alright, so we're actually starting the process now of copying files for the installation. And anytime that we need to make a decision or make a confirmation during this process, we will show that. Otherwise, we'll edit it out for content because it takes a while to install the operating system. Okay, so now that the installation has been completed, we're being prompted to restart the computer. But there's a couple of things that we actually need to do first. One is to go into the optical drives where we have our storage, and we'll have the ISO image attached where we use for installation. We need to go ahead and remove that from the virtual drive so that when the computer does restart, it does it from the virtual environment that we created and not the ISO image. It will do it from the hard disk. And the second thing that we need to do is power on pfSense, which is going to serve as our router, and we'll be able to communicate with our other virtual machines and our new Mint desktop, and we'll be networking those together. So I will start this in the background and come back to the Mint desktop and reboot that. Okay, so we've booted back up and now it's time to log in, and so I will use the name that I chose during the installation process, my username. Okay, and now I'm being prompted to enter my password, which I entered at setup, and I will continue and press OK. Okay, so now we are at the welcome screen. We can go ahead and X this out for the time being. And what we want to look at is our network connections, which are right down here. And as you can see right now, we are not connected to a network. But we are going to configure some parameters statically that will enable us to connect to our network that we've created here in our virtual environment. So we'll take a look at the network connections. Alright, so in our network connections we have Ethernet wired connection 1, and what we want to do is edit some properties in here. Alright, so we need to go to the IPv4 settings, and the method is by default automatic DHCP, but we're going to need to change that to manual. And so now that we've changed this to manual, we will add a configuration. And for this particular machine, we want our IP address to be 172.16.0.50. We'll tab over to the net mask, and we will configure this to be 255.255.255.0. We can tab over to the gateway, and we want this to point back to our pfSense router, and that number is 172.16.0.1. So now for the DNS server, we need to go ahead and type in 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS server, and that will work for the purposes of what we want to do, which is establish an internet connection to our router here. And what we'll do is go ahead and save those changes. Okay, so now when we look down here, we can see that we are connected to our network. That connection is made now. And so to test out internet connection, we'll go ahead and open a web browser over here in Mozilla Firefox. Alright, so we've done this, and it brings us to the home page at linuxmint.com, and we can see that we do have internet connectivity, and we are connected to our network through our pfSense router. And to just take a look at those numbers one more time, we'll go down here to the network configuration, and we'll look at network settings. And once we open up our settings, we can see our wired network, and there's our IP address that we configured, our default gateway, and our DNS server. And that concludes this video for the purposes of what we need is so far as installing Mint desktop here and in virtual machine, and also being able to configure that to communicate with our pfSense router, which in turn will be able to communicate with the rest of our virtual machines here in VirtualBox.